What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Slumber Party Massacre II. The first thing that I would like to talk about is I like this entire franchise and I enjoy all the films, but out of all the films, this is the most fun entry. The killer is so cool, charismatic. He's totally his own deal. The suit that he has on is really cool. It's this frilly leather jacket. All of the sequences with him on screen, he just absolutely steals the show. He has such an iconic weapon. He has that custom red drill guitar. I mean, the drill in the first one was already iconic. Uh, this this new weapon just totally upped the ante. So yeah, I like all the movies in this franchise, but this is definitely the most fun. I like that there's a lot of these dream elements, a lot more fantasy, and with a franchise like this, I think it's perfect that they went in this fun, uh, fantastical route where, you know, it doesn't really exist in a world where real things are happening. You know, it's like A Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, it's Freddy Krueger couldn't really exist. This rockabilly driller killer couldn't really exist, but that's what makes it fun in my opinion. And there's some other standout moments that are just weird and wacky, and yeah, I feel like it fits very well in this movie. There's this one instance where a chicken just comes out of the refrigerator and it's alive and it's spraying out all this fluid. I don't think it's blood. It's like it's a little bit darker. And then there's this one girl and she has a giant zit on her face, and they put so much makeup on her. She looked absolutely disgusting, but like in a good way. The makeup was really good, but she was looking mad gross, and that was just a random, weird, fantastical scene. And actually, that actress had to be in the makeup chair for 12 hours to get that done. So that's some dedication. I'm pretty sure they did the type of thing where, they do the cast on your they did the cast on her face and she had to breathe through the tubes. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty darn sure that girl who had the giant zit on her face was actually in a couple other horror movies. There's quite a few of the cast members in this I recognize from other horror movies. So that girl was in Friday the 13th Part 7 and Society. The guy TJ, he was in Pumpkinhead, and the redhead girl was in Friday the 13th Part 5. So you have some horror alumni. I don't know if they did those movies before or after, but in my opinion nowadays they're horror alumni. Those are some classic movies in my opinion. So it was cool to see some familiar faces. Something else that I like, speaking of familiar, I can't speak. What the heck? Speaking of oh my goodness. Speaking of things that are similar, I can't even. That's what I have to do because I can't even I can't. Oh my goodness! I can't even pronounce familiarity. That wasn't even pronounced that great, but whatever. But anyways, something else. Speaking of things that are similar, something similar to the first movie and the third movie is you have once again a scene where there's girls in a slumber party. They're getting topless, and the boys come along. They spy on them, not in a creepy way. I mean, they're their boyfriends and friends. So yeah, they take a look at these girls, getting topless, having a great time, and I've said this in the other Slumber Party Massacre reviews that I've done. I like that. It's something to look forward to in these movies. It's in all the movies. It's a staple of this franchise. It was great to see it. It gives me a smile. It's a nice little funny scene. I love it. Yeah, I already talked about the killer being iconic. Fun fact here. That's what I try to hit you all with, the fun, interesting facts. So, fun fact: the killer is played by Atanas Illich, and he's the son of Mike Illich. I don't know if you all know Mike Illich, but he actually owns the Little Caesars pizza franchise, which, I mean, they started hot and ready pizza, $5 pizza. I personally like their pizza, and you can't go wrong with a nice $5 large pizza. Come on, I mean, what are you, crazy? Come on, it's $5. It's good pizza. Come on. But anyways, he also, I'm actually from Michigan, and something interesting about Mike Illich is he actually used to own the Red Wings and the Tigers. So that's pretty darn cool if you're a Michigander, and then you're seeing a Thomas Illich in that, and you're like, oh, that's Mike Illich's son. Even if you're not, if you're just a fan of Little Caesars Pizza, it's interesting to see him in this movie. I don't know if Mike Illich still owns those teams, but I know he did, and so me as a Michigander, I know that. I'm just checking out my notes here. So actually, I probably should get into a little plot summary while I'm talking about the movie. It's a slasher movie, of course, so there's not that much story, but the main character is actually the little sister of the final girl from the last movie, and her older sister in this is said to be in an insane asylum, and the younger sister, who is the main character, is coping with PTSD. She's having nightmares, and she's in a band with her friends. Her friends are going out of town. There's one of them, their family has a little vacation home, so they're going out of town for the weekend with no parents. She wants to go. One thing leads to another. She goes on the trip with them, and she keeps having these weird dreams of this rockabilly driller killer, and her friends, it's like a boy who cried wolf situation where her friends, she keeps saying, oh, the killer's here and this and that, and nobody believes her. The cops don't believe her, and eventually he actually comes, starts picking off her friends. That's the main summary. How I just said that the cops don't believe her, that's a point in the story that actually sets up something for later, which I thought was smart. So earlier there's a false alarm where she can't find her friend, and she thinks her friend is dead and in the garbage disposal, but she doesn't want to look, so she calls the police, which is weird because they're all there by themselves, they're drinking, blah blah blah, like, why would you call the police? But that's besides the point. So she calls the police. Of course, her friend walks in when the police are there, and the police think that she just totally wasted their time. So later in the movie, when she calls the police, because in any movie like this, you would, if you're the audience, you would think, why don't they just call the cops? But the filmmakers doing that earlier, where she had the false alarm with the police, set it up to where when she does call the police, they don't believe her, because if she were just to call the police, the movie would just end. They would have just killed the killer, and then if she didn't call the police, it would be, the audience would be thinking like, why didn't she call the police? So the way that they set it up like that, where she had the false alarm with the police set up, where she called the police, made a smart decision, but it was, like I said earlier, she was the boy or the girl who cried wolf, so the cops didn't want to come through. Another smart thing is, in a lot of slasher movies, people, when they're faced with a killer in their house, they seem to stay in the house, and that's the cliche. Like, they made fun of it in Scream, that people always just run upstairs when there's a killer in their house. I thought the characters immediately made some pretty smart decisions once the killer actually came into reality, because they did not stay in the house whatsoever. They booked it. They got out of the house immediately. They were banging on people's doors trying to get help. So that's what I'm saying. I thought the writing in this movie was pretty smart for this type of movie, and I thought the characters made pretty smart decisions for this type of movie. And like I said, this is a fun movie with all the fantastical elements, with all the, weird reality bending stuff, where this unlike the other sequels, this movie doesn't take place in reality. In addition to that, another thing that made it fun was the characters were fun. So they were joking the whole time. They were likable. They were funny. I liked all the girls. It was cool how they're in a band. That kind of, this whole movie had this music theme, this rock and roll theme, which was cool. But I really liked the comedy and just the banter between the different characters. They really felt like real teenagers. My favorite character was TJ. He's the guy from Pumpkinhead, but he was just obnoxious and cracking jokes the whole time, and he just reminded me of exactly how I acted at that age. So I really liked him. He was a lot of fun, because there was this blow up doll there that I guess was the redhead girl's brothers, and TJ was just like messing with it the entire time. He brought it to the pool and used it as a floaty, and the other girl, the blonde girl, brought her brother's erotic book. It was some sort of erotic book, and he's just reading it throughout the movie, and I am making fun of it. I thought that was pretty darn funny. So yeah, I really liked him. I liked all the characters, and like I said, I thought it was cool how they, were in the band, and then you have the rock and roll killer, you have the rock and roll theme. There's just so many aspects of this movie that made it a lot of fun and a great time, in my opinion. I'm just going to take a quick breather and look at my notes, because I feel like I've talked about a whole lot of stuff that I was trying to talk about, but let me see if I forgot something. Oh yeah, so this is, I've watched, I was going to say how many times I watched it, who cares? Like, oh, I've watched this a million times. But no, I haven't watched it that many times, but I watched it a couple times, and I knew what was coming this time, so I didn't notice this or think about this time, but I always remember when I watched this, the first time that I watched this movie, the first actual kill was really jarring to me, because like I said, there's so many fake out instances where she's just dreaming, and you'll see a kill, but it was just her dream, or it was just a daydream. So the first time I watched this, the first kill was really jarring to me, because I always thought, I'm like, before you actually find out later on that, okay, no, that was real, the killer's in the real world now, I was like, oh, it's probably just a dream still. Everything's been a dream. It's probably just a dream. There's no way that was real. So that was pretty jarring to me, but watching it now, I know that it wasn't a dream, so I don't think about that. I just wanted to mention that because I feel like maybe I haven't really heard that in other reviews, and I feel like maybe other people thought the same thing the first time they watched it. But that kill was phenomenal. The gore in this was great. When you see, of course, there's not a whole lot of variety with the kills because it's with one weapon, but I mean, that's his iconic weapon, so he has to use it for all the kills, but the gore is so good. That first kill, you see the drill just go through his chest. You have all kind of blood and guts spewing out. He rips his arm, and there's all like the tendons are stretching, and it looks phenomenal. So the gore is great. The kills are great. You have a little bit of nudity. Actually, there's just one instance of nudity, which, I mean, that girl was attractive, but not really my type. But I know I'm not like super into nudity, but I'm talking about a slasher movie here. So if I'm watching a slasher movie, I'm gonna mention that, But I mean, you had the obligatory nudity, It was in the contract. When you sign up for Slumber Party Massacre, you have to have the nudity. I mean, that's how it goes. I think that's what they would actually say, because I mean, it makes sense for, the demographic who was gonna watch this at the time was probably like younger dudes. So you got to have the tits and the blood going on. I mean, that's the formula. That's what people are paying to see with these types of movies. But there's a whole lot going on too for a low budget movie. I feel like this movie, it's for what it is. It's smarter and more well made than it needs to be. It's not like it's the smartest thing ever. I mean, it's a cheesy B slasher movie, but I feel like they went hard with this. They did something different. They took a risk, and it paid off, in my opinion, because that's what I'm saying. I'm not ranking the films. I enjoy all the films in this series. Like I said in my other reviews, I didn't like the first movie the first time I watched it, but after I rewatched it, I did like it. So I like all these movies, but this is the most fun in my opinion. So pretty much the last thing that I want to talk about is the ending. So the ending always pissed me off in this movie because I interpreted it and I interpreted it. I can't speak it on this video. This is gonna be. I'm sorry you all for just butchering so many words. This one was rough, but I've had a fun time. I feel like this is still a okay review. It is what it is. It's not a big deal. What are you gonna do? So I always interpreted the ending as that. I always interpreted that the ending was just a dream, and I really hated that because I think that's just like cheap. That's just a cop out. Like, oh, it was all just a dream. That's stupid. And in my opinion, I mean, in some movies that works, but I liked all the fantasy stuff in this movie. I liked the dream-like killer. I liked that he was supernatural. I liked all the supernatural elements. So it pissed me off when I see the end and it's just like, oh, it's just a dream. Like, oh, but I liked all that stuff. Like, you're going to tell me it's just a dream? But I was watching the behind the scenes, and the director herself actually said that there's the ending is, she wrote it so that it's up for interpretation, and it could be interpreted two ways. I've said interpreted so many times. I mean, take a shot every time I say interpreted. No, you'll die. Don't do that. I've said it 1 trillion times. Anyways, yeah, she said the ending could be seen two different ways. Either that it's a dream, or that everything was real, and that led the main character to be committed. And she actually said that was her favorite ending, the one where it was all real and she was committed. And that made me feel so good that, the writer is saying, but it doesn't matter because you can think whatever you want to think anyways, but I mean, she is the one who created this whole movie, so I mean, that if that's her intention, that's what the ending is. So that made me feel a lot better, because then I saw the ending in a totally different way, and I don't know. That's way more satisfying to me that it all actually did happen. Because it's just a waste if it didn't. I mean, it was a fun time, and you got this cool supernatural killer, all this crazy stuff happening. Like, to just say it was a dream, it's just, get out of here, man. You're gonna say the driller killer is just a dream? I mean, dude's got pizzazz. He's got charisma for days. He's dreamy, but he's not just a dream. Pause, man. Don't clip that right there. I mean, I just like him, as an acquaintance. I don't know. But it's fitting that I just talked about the ending, because I hit all the points that I wanted to talk about. So I'm gonna end this video in a second, but before I end it, I would just like to thank you all for watching, and if you have the chance, definitely check out this movie. You can find it for free on quite a few streaming services. I watched it on Tubi, so feel free to check it out on Tubi or another free service. I would highly recommend this film. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and peace out.